in which the last dangling threads of our story play out in the aftermath of Anna's death. Chapter 11. The day Sergei Ivanovich arrived at Pokrovskoe was one of Levine's most tormenting days. It was the most pressing work time, when all the peasants show such an extraordinary effort of self-sacrifice in their labor as is not shown in any other conditions of life, and which would be highly valued if the people who show this quality valued it themselves, if it were not repeated every year, and if the results of this effort were not so simple. To mow and reap rye and oats and cart them, to mow out the meadows, to cross-plough the fallow land, to thresh the seed and sow the winter crops, it all seems simple and ordinary. But to manage to get it all done, it was necessary that all the village people, from oldest to youngest, work ceaselessly during those 3 or 4 weeks, 3 times more than usual, living on kvass, onions, and black bread, threshing and transporting the sheaves by night, and giving no more than 2 or 3 hours a day to sleep. And every year this was done all over Russia. Having lived the major part of his life in the country and in close relations with the peasantry, Levin always felt during the work period that this general peasant excitement communicated itself to him as well. In the morning he went to the first sowing of the rye, then to the oats, which he helped to cart and stack. Returning by the time his wife and sister-in-law got up, he had coffee with them and left on foot for the farmstead, where they had to start the newly set-up threshing machine for preparing the seed. That whole day, talking with the steward and the muzhiks, and at home talking with his wife, with Dolly, with her children, with his father-in-law, Levin thought about the one and only thing that occupied him during this time, apart from farm cares, and sought in everything a link to his questions. What am I? And where am I? And why am I here? Standing in the cool of the newly covered threshing barn, with fragrant leaves still clinging to the hazel rods, pressed to the freshly peeled aspen rafters of the thatched roof, Levin gazed now through the open doorway in which the dry and bitter dust of the threshing hovered and sparkled, at the grass of the threshing floor lit by the hot sun, and the fresh straw just taken from the barn, now at the white-breasted swallows with multicolored heads that flew peeping under the roof and, fluttering their wings, paused in the opening of the door, now at the people pattering about in the dark and dusty threshing barn, and thought strange thoughts. Why is all this being done, he thought. What am I standing here and making them work for? Why are they all bustling about and trying to show me their zeal? Why is this old woman toiling so? I know her. She's Mariona. I treated her when a beam fell on her during a fire, he thought, looking at a thin woman who, as she moved the grain with a rake, stepped tensely with her black-tanned bare feet over the hard, uneven threshing floor. That time she recovered, but today or tomorrow, in 10 years, they'll bury her and nothing will be left of her, nor of that saucy one in the red skirt who's beating the grain from the chaff with such a deft and tender movement. She'll be buried too, and so will the piebald gelding, very soon, he thought, looking at the heavy-bellied horse, breathing rapidly through flared nostrils. It was treading the slanted wheel as it kept escaping from under him. He'll be buried, and Fyodor, the feeder, with his curly beard full of chaff and the shirt torn on his white shoulder, will also be buried. And now he's ripping the sheaves open and giving orders, and yelling at the women, and straightening the belt on the flywheel with a quick movement, and above all, not only they, but I too, will be buried, and nothing will be left. What for? He thought that, and at the same time looked at his watch to calculate how much had been threshed in an hour. He had to know that in order to set the day's quota by it. It will soon be an hour, and they've only just started on the third stack, Levine thought, went over to the feeder, and shouting above the noise of the machine, told him to feed more slowly. You stuff in too much, Fyodor. See, it gets choked. That's why it's slow. Even it out. And blackened by the dust sticking to his sweaty face, Fyodor shouted something in reply, but went on doing it not as Levine wanted. Levine went up to the drum, motioned Fyodor aside, and began feeding himself. Working till the music's dinner time, which was not too far off, he left the threshing barn together with the feeder, and got into conversation with him, stopping by a neat yellow rick of harvested rye, stacked on the seed-threshing floor. The feeder came from a distant village, the one where Levine used to lease land on collective principles. Now it was leased to an innkeeper. Levine got into conversation about that land with Fyodor, and asked whether Platon, a wealthy and good music from the same village, might rent it next year. The price is too dear. Platon wouldn't make enough, Konstantin Dmitrich, said the music, picking ears of rye from under his sweaty shirt. Then how does Kirilov make it pay? Mityushka, so the music scornfully called the innkeeper, makes it pay right enough, Konstantin Dmitrich. He pushes till he gets his own. He takes no pity on a peasant. But Uncle Fokanich, so he called old Platon, he won't skin a man. He lends to you, he lets you off, so he comes out short. He's a man, too. But why should he let anyone off? Well, that's how it is. People are different. One man just lives for his own needs. Take Mityushka, even. Just stuffs his belly, but Fokanich, he's an upright old man. He lives for the soul. He remembers God. How's that? Remembers God? Lives for the soul? Levine almost shouted. Everybody knows, by the truth, by God's way. People are different. Now take you, even. You wouldn't defend anybody either. Yes, goodbye, said Levine, breathless with excitement, and turning he took his stick and quickly walked off towards home. A new, joyful feeling came over him at the music's words about Fokanich living for the soul, by the truth, by God's way. It was as if a host of vague but important thoughts burst from some locked-up place and, all rushing towards the same goal, whirled through his head, blinding him with their light. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.